Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, I would like to introduce our keynote speaker for the evening, Mr. Tom Kight. As you saw from your program, Mr. Kight is the son of rescue pioneer Brigadier General Richard Kight. I had the pleasure of meeting Tom at the Air Rescue Association reunion back in October and heard him tell the story of how the rescue that we know today was really sort of orchestrated by the brilliant mind that was General Kight. And I thought to myself, at that time I was looking for a speaker for this event. And I thought that there would be no better speaker for our inaugural event than to have our young rescue airmen hear from the horse's mouth who witnessed history being made and tell you exactly where you came from. So without further ado, Tom Kight.
Good evening. Thank you very much for inviting Jane and I. Colonel Worms, Ms. Worms, Colonel Jeffries, Mrs. Jeffries, the Tonal Board, and all the fine commanders, chiefs, airmen, officers, leaders. You are an amazing family. I first met Yogi when I was called to the Air Rescue Association annual meeting, and they called me and said, "Would you mind talking about your dad?" And I said, "No, I'd be honored." I hadn't spoken, and Yogi said, "And we've got a rescue ball. Would you speak at that?" And I said, "You've not heard me speak." And he said, "That's okay." I said, "No, you have full rights of refusal. Listen to me speak, and then you decide." I have no idea how you got Yogi to agree to go ahead and ask me, but here I am. It really is an honor to be in your midst. It's very humbling. We have 3 sons. Jane and I have grown boys, and they always talk about their grandfathers. We were fortunate when I retired from the Army, we moved back to Albuquerque to take care of family. And the boys, which is rare, and I know all of you know this, to actually know their grandparents. Well, our boys fortunately got to know them all. So they were very proud, and when they found that I was speaking, I've been getting texts all day long. Let's talk a little bit about Dick Kight, Richard T. Kight. He was the eldest of 5 boys. He was born in Collinsville, Texas, a little north of Dallas. That's where his mother was from. That's where the family was. And she would always go back for the birth of the child and then return to Claude, Texas. It's outside of Amarillo. Population 800. And as Dick would say, except in election years when it's 1,200. That's West Texas. He grew up there as the oldest boy. At 5, he told me that he could always recognize an aircraft and name it. He knew that's what he was going to do. And in his latter years, I asked him, I said, "If there was anything you could change in your life, what would you have done differently?" And he stared at me. And he said, "What?" I said, "What would you change in your life now that you've lived it?" He said, "Not a thing, Tom. Not a thing." His fondest memories are those of rescue and of the preceding flights that led to that. But let me give you a little bit of history. Dick tried to become an aeronautical engineer. He got to Texas Tech, had a few credit hours. It was the Depression. He was broke, so he made it to Randolph by way of San Antonio with 10 cents in his pocket. He saw a guy there with a stripe on his sleeve, and he said, "That guy must know what's going on." And he grabbed him and he said, "I want to be a flying cadet." The guy goes, "Well, I know where they're at. Come with me." So for a week, he lived off the Army Air Corps, sleeping in the barracks, eating in the mess hall, before he was enlisted. He was enlisted as a clerk typist. Typical, and it hadn't changed, has it? He wanted to be a flying cadet, he was a clerk typist. Because he had a little bit of capability, they made him the commanding officer's clerk there at Randolph. 18 months later, he was able to get orders, and he transferred. He went to flying cadets, the other end of the field. There, class of 30, I believe it's 33, he met some good buddies. He met Jay Chapman, Eddie Lipinski, a guy named James Allen. They called themselves the Four Aces. Typical cadets kind of a stunt. Only they tried to fly that way too. So they didn't get bounced, but they came close a few times. Stunts with biplanes and triplanes chasing farmers was really not correct. Those 4 men, 3 became general officers of the United States Air Force, and 1 was the chief pilot, United Airlines. Who would think? I mean, what a close group. Dick then went on and was at Morris Field and a few other places. He became part of what was then called Ferry Command, then became MATS, and I've lost track of what it's called today, Air Transport or Strategic Lift, or I don't know the names anymore. Anyway, he was part of Ferry Command. He was Special Projects. Special Projects was a organization that did any missions. He flew some weird missions, but the one that he really enjoyed the most was he flew Wendell Willkie around the world. Wendell Willkie ran for president against Roosevelt and lost. Roosevelt then used him to go internationally around the world, you know, as basically an ambassador at large. Dick was able to fly him around, and they created a great bond. The aircraft, they named it Gulliver. When Wendell Willkie returned, he wrote a book called One World. He dedicated it to Dick Kight and to members of Gulliver. That kind of set him in position with General George and General Arnold, and a few others that thought he was a pretty good guy. So he was doing this special ops stuff when he was told to go inspect all these rescue units around the world. And the intention back then was, it was disjointed, it really wasn't very functional, probably ought to get rid of it. And so that was the way that he told me he went out to go around the world and inspect rescue units. Full intention of shutting it down, clean it out, get rid of it. He came back and he reported back and said, we've got a mistake here. They're disorganized, they lack unity of command, they have mixed-match, hand-me-down equipment. We need unity, we need command and control, we need equipment that they can use to get in and go rescue. They said, good, you got the job. So from 46 to 52, he did everything he could to organize rescue and get it functional. Singular types of aircraft, mission capabilities that you've expanded on beyond any of his wildest dreams. But he was a clear thinker. Way back in high school, he had gone out for football. He was a scrawny guy. I mean, trust me, I'm taller than he was. He was 5'10". He, scrawny kid, the coach was all over his butt. Typical coach, football. And he ran out, and the coach just kept hammering and hammering, and he said, you got to hit harder, Kight, you got to hit harder. So he did. He hit that coach so hard, he knocked the breath out of him, leveled him to the ground, and in the process, across that West Texas caliche, just took the skin off of himself. He stood up and he realized that the anger had got the better part of him, and he actually would be a much better editor of the school newspaper, so that's what he did. But I will tell you, that ability of learning to write and communicate is what served him well. Later, long after retiring, they formed the Air Rescue Association and invited me and said, okay, let's get together. And there was a discussion, as there probably still is today. Well, who penned this? And Dick said, well, I did. In fact, I still have the notes from it. Now, I apologize. I don't know where that piece of paper is. But he wrote your creed. And he's been, connected with it ever since. And they created the Air Rescue Association, created that first award for the Outstanding Air Rescueman. And then the angels that go with that. Dick's younger brother, who had also been in his command, was flying out of Rosie Roads in the Caribbean. Had also been a hump pilot, as many of them had been. That's where they got their experience. And called his older brother and said, Colonel Kight, this is Colonel Kight. Dick said, Hank, what is this? He goes, no, Colonel Kight, I'm grounding myself. Well, for those of you that are rated, you know what that means. That's kind of a death knell, I think. But it wasn't for Hank. Hank was a maintenance officer. He's a phenomenal maintenance officer. So his younger brother said, no, it's okay. I'm grounded. I'll take over maintenance operations. That's what I love. Hank was also artistic. Hank's the guy that made those angels. So Dick's brother made the angels that are now presented. And I had the great honor of presenting one of those. Trust me, if you get your hand on that angel, hang on tight. That baby is heavy, rightfully so. So the family's been connected to rescue. As Dick moved on, I got to go to a few Air Rescue Association meetings. People would come up to me. One, his very best friend, who had been a major in his command, was Rich McVeigh. Rich McVeigh was the project manager pilot for the Hopalong. It was the first self-deploy of helicopters for, I believe, what they're called Pedros now. Rich led that. And Rich came to me and he said, let me tell you about your dad. You listen when people talk to you that way. And he said, you need to understand that the man had vision. The man knew what needed to be done. He was very humble. But we ever needed anything, we knew we would get it. If it could be had, Dick Kight would go get it, and we'd make it happen. So he brought in the SA-16. He gave I'm not familiar with the helicopter that Rich flew. He gave him anything and everything he needed. It was a successful mission, and it proved that you can do just about anything you want in this particular family. I will tell you that rescue was always part of his life. Latter years, he always talked about everybody in this room as rescue hands. It was everything to him. I think that you, as a group, especially with the National Geographic video, have carried this whole legacy from these years, from all these great men, so much further, and you should be so proud of what you've done. And one last thing I will say before closing, because you're supposed to throw a flag when I'm running out of time, not since I am. Okay? When I talked to Jose, I said, well, you know, what is rescue? He said, no, let me tell you. Yes, sir. He said, when all else fails, all the missions I've received, all the coordinated instructions, all the intelligence, everything that we receive in this modern war capability, when all of that is just going to hell in a handbasket and going by, it's so easy. I turn back to the creed. That's it. That guides every mission. That was my probably greatest understanding of what I think Dick Kight probably wrote, is that creed. And if you don't mind, in closing, I really appreciate what you do. And your code that says, it is my duty as an air rescue man to save life and aid the injured. I will be prepared at all times to perform my duties quickly and efficiently, placing these duties before personal desires and comforts. These things I do. God bless you all. Thank you. I love you, Jolly Greens. You painted green feet on my father's driveway. I recall those. Thank you so much. Thank you.